1 minute.
Down King's Road. Start small and then
I'm telling you, we've got too big of an axe.
tall big enough for the
Nobody's good enough to stick a lead. Doesn't matter how good you are, it just depends how many millions you got in the bag. Millions. Axe have got plenty of millions in the bag.
Did everyone see Ben? Everybody get Ben in the post.
City will be the next thing probably.
Ben
what?
in the post.
All the riders. I haven't got the video. I haven't got the video yet. The video's coming.
Yeah.
Salford City will be next.
So him and Harrison, I'm telling you, they're like two peas in a pod.
They're gonna get the next
Him, Harrison, and Shimmy.
They're gonna get the next Oscars. They're gonna win the next
Salford City will be next.
No, I'm gonna support them. I'm gonna support them.
You don't.
I will. You know, if you start supporting them, they're gonna have to build a bigger thing, and then you're gonna have problems. People might complain that there's nowhere to support.
Why would you stop supporting them?
Who?
United.
I agree with it all.
No, it's not.
It's not a club for the fans anymore.
When was it ever? Any team that's 20 years old.
Scared that people get into the argument about 40.
There was a big Indian today. Big things happened today.
Somebody wanted me in the game.
Breakaway,
No,
massive
it's
rally.
been
Revolution.
a breakaway.
It's like when the shore breaks away from the shore.
It's hard to explain. So you got the English league and 6 teams are breaking away. 6 teams want to break away.
Everybody.
Premier League.
They boycott it, not let them in.
Yeah, like a group of teams that play against each other. No, they want to only the best ones play against the best.
The people want to pick.
Right?
Something like that.
Do they get if someone drop out of that and go into the Premier League? That's a completely separate thing. That's ridiculous.
Okay, we're up to there's Hashem Yisborach Yoma Daf Chesam Udalef, about 59s from the top. We're discussing what we're discussing. We're discussing Tumah Huto B'Tzibur or the Chuya B'Tzibur. Anybody remember? Very good.
Wow.
Huto. Very, very good.
On the ball today.
Double toes from Michelin today.
That's very good. Now, for an extra L'chaim, you should deserve 2 L'chaims. When does Rav Nachman agree that we say the Chuya? When does Rav Nachman agree that we say the Chuya? No, 3 cases. When it's eaten, very, very good. When it's eaten now, okay, if you already said eaten, there are 2 malachim, 2 main malachim in the Shunim. Why, when it's eaten, do we say the Chuya Nahutu? What are the 2 main malachim?
You've got a similar to Pesach?
No, it's not.
That one is.
No, that's because you're not. Everybody agrees not allowed to eat it when it's betuma. So one man says we don't want you to do tuma huto b'tzibur when it's eaten because you might come to eat it, which would be an avera. Another man said no, we're not chaysh might come to eat it, but we want that people should eat it, and therefore we don't say huto. Again, okay. There's a machlokes Nachman Moshe, as I said correctly, whether tuma huto b'tzibur the chuya b'tzibur. There are 3 exceptions to this din of that Nachman agrees, and we say to chuya. Ben said 1, which is any korban which is eaten. For example, let me give an example. No, that's the one case where we don't say that.
The Omer.
The Omer. The Omer benunchas Omer lechatchila. Everybody agrees. It's a typical dirshul question. When does everybody agree to the chuya b'tzibur and why? The answer is that common Omer would be one of the cases, and the reason is because it's eaten. Most of it is eaten. How much goes in his back? Just 1 fistful. The rest of it is eaten. Another 2 cases where we say the chuya b'tzibur, the chuya.
It's got a fixed time.
The opposite. If it's not got a fixed time, can you tell me something which a korban tzibur is mostly fixed time? Korban Yom Tov, Shabbos. When do you have a korban tzibur which is not fixed time? Very good. If the majority of Christ must be the writing creates neurons in the brains. I think it does actually.
It definitely helps. Yeah.
So therefore, what happens is if a person, if Roiv Kreisel, yeah, you can say that. If Roiv Kreisel do avodah zarah, the halach is they have to be a korban, but it's not hutzvah, it's the chuya. Why is it the chuya? Because it's not a fixed time. And there's one more case when everybody says the chuya. What's the other case? Maybe you can sit here. That way you can tell me from the avodah zarah. Right, what's the 3rd case? Everybody agrees to chuya. By korban yochid with a fixed time. What's a korban yochid with a fixed time? Not so often you have a common yochid with a fixed time. Quite hard actually, but it is. It's actually this week's parsha in Nachrim. It's the Kohen Gadol having his own private korban in Yom Kippur. It was his own private korban, so it's common yochid was a fixed time. Okay. In all those three cases, even when Nachman agrees, it's the chuya and not the Torah. Showing it has the next week. Again. Yes. Oh, there's a chair here. There's a chair here. Look at this here.
Maybe.
Doesn't matter.
No.
You both
Side by side.
No, use the tapes. Right.
Because it each other.
Right. Okay. Don't stand on my hat. Right. Let's go very, very brief to what we just said, because Mamish is so this and you say this. This is something which is chaval narrative. Is the Machlik and Achad of Sheshes to what Chubit Sibor, Hutubit Sibor, and the Nachman agrees in three cases that we say it's Chuyah. The three cases, a common which is eaten, for example, common Yoma, a common Sibor which is not a fixed time, for example, a common Sibor to be if they by mistake to David Azor, and the third case is a common Yochid with a fixed time like a Kohen Gadol. Now we actually proved that it's a Machlikas Tanoim. Anybody remember what the Machlikas Tanoim is based around? Much more than it's. There's a shaila where the tzitz is meratza when it's not on. So Rabbi Shimon brings a proof from Yom Kippur. Yehuda says you can't bring a proof from Yom Kippur. Yehuda says you can't bring a proof. Why not? No, because he holds Tumohoto Betsibu, and since Tumohoto Betsibu, you don't need the tzitz and everything else. But Hashem comes from Shimon, it says Tumohoto Betsibu, you need to come on to the tzitz. So the Machlokas between Rav Nachman and Sheshes Moishi is a Machlokas of Yehuda and Rav Shimon. Says the Gemara, Neima, we're up to Daf Chesamud Aleph at 59 from the top. Neima Hani Tanoi Kani Tanoi. We're going to find another Machlokas Tanoim with exactly the same argument. The Tanya. Whether we're discussing the avodah in Yom Kippur, or whether we're discussing a Kohen Gadol who does the avodah, who's preparing for the Po'ah Adumah, Mazin Alav Kol Shiva, we sprinkle on both of them all the 7 days which they're separate. Mikol Chatos Sheyishom Divrei from every single Chatos that was there. What does it mean from every single Chatos? What does it mean from every single Chatos? Hey, what do you mean from every single Chatos? From every Po'ah Adumah that exists in history. How many Paradumas were there all together in history? 9. So not necessarily every time 9, because it could be talking about somebody who did the 5th or middle of Avodah. Again, according to Amir, every Kohen Gadol who was working, preparing for Yom Kippur, and everybody who was preparing for the Po'ah Adumah would get sprinkled every single day from all the cows that ever existed, all the Paradumas that ever existed. I saw a beautiful Lashon or Chashulchan, you should know, with the same called Or Chashulchan or Osid, which is perhaps one of the greatest works in genius. It only lived 100 years ago, the Machashon. It's an unbelievable work. Basically, like a Mishnah V'or for Mashiach comes. And he writes there that I have no idea, it's very strong Russian, why in the world would it be necessary to sprinkle from all the Po'ah Adumah that ever existed? What purpose is that?
It was not mixed together.
Yeah, it was mixed. Okay, we'll come to the second, but why? So there are others that argue they say there are two main reasons. One is it's a covered for all the Kohanim Gedolim before that their Po'ah Adumah should be used because of covered for the previous Po'ah Adumah. So he says, what happens if one of the Po'ah Adumas wasn't kosher? So then that way you're definitely okay because you at least got, let's say you did from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you're up to the 7th already. Let's say 5 and 6, all of them were no good except for 1, so at least you became Torah. There is machlokas though, whether we mix them all together, we sprinkle every day from all of them, or every day we sprinkle from a different one. Okay, right, so that's the Divrei Amir. Rabbi Yossi disagrees. Ein mazin elo shlishi v'shvi b'lvad. The ma'isa, the halacha is, if a person becomes a Tamei Meis, let's say a person touches a dead body. How can we become a Tamei Meis? A number of ways. Touching, going in the same room, or carrying. Or carrying even if you don't touch. Then what happens is you have to come to, you have to shlishi b'shvi. You have to wait for the 3rd day after, and then the 7th day. Now what happens if you didn't get around to the Beis Mikdash to the 100th day? What happens? Does anybody know? You're tummy till then. And then when do you sprinkle again?
7-3.
104, I would say more correctly. Right?
3 days after.
4 days after, 3 and 7. So let's say you became tummy. The earliest is 3 and 7. If you didn't catch 3 and 7, so you can catch 4 and 8, or 5 and 9, or 100 and 104, that's also fine. You can't do it before 3 and 7. Says Rabbi Yossi, we do 3 and 7. What's the logic of 3 and 7? Because since Yom Kippur, since every Yom Kippur, we need another chair.
Always
Since he's that's just like how it's a song. Okay. Oh, and also like that song. Yeah, it's expand. That's the English. The since why only 3 and 7 according to Rabbi Yossi? What's the logic of Rabbi Yossi? It should be very straightforward. What's the logic of Rabbi Yossi? Why 3 and 7? What's the logic? Why is your name Ian Spielman? Why not Eli Spielman? Ian.
Good question. It's a good question.
Not having that, you've got a friend over here. Waiting to hear from you. What is why only 3 and 7? What's the logic of 3 and 7? Because he's been separated from anybody for the past 3 days. That means like this: we don't know if the Kohen Gadol ever became Tommy. Pashtus, he never became Tommy. He's been 7 days in the shul year round. But there's a small chance that one day in the year he became Tommy. You're not going to sprinkle him on the first. Why not on the first? Because let's say he became Tommy the day before he came. So what we gained by sprinkling on the first? But if you sprinkle on the 3rd and the 7th, then that is the best days because
why
that.
Do we say you have to wait till day 104?
No, again.
100 is also fine as long as it wasn't tummy in the last 2 days.
No, you're right. For 100, you can sprinkle on day 100 and then 104.
You wake up for 2 days after.
Yes, and then you sprinkle straight away. You sprinkle straight away, and then wait 4 days.
In the first 2 days?
You don't have to wait. No, you have to sprinkle once, then you wait 4 days. That's what I was trying to say. 3 and 7 is the earliest. But let's say, for example, let's say Mashiach comes today. So what happens is, and I became Tommy a year ago. So now I sprinkle tomorrow, as soon as it's daylight, because can only sprinkle the day, and then again 4 days later. It's 3 and 7 is the minimum. So again, according to the Rabbi Yossi, the Kohen Gadol separates 7 days before Yom Kippur. Which date of the year is it? Does anybody remember?
The
3rd of Tishri. Not like the other man who said the 2nd of Tishri. The Ma'aseh again. So Rabbi Yossi says, what's the logic of Rabbi Yossi? Because we assume that he became Tomei the whole time he was there. He only became Tomei before. If he became Tomei before, the last day possible to become Tomei was the day before he separated. So we do 3 and 7.
Chadin is going to come on Yom Kippur itself by night. If he separates on the 3rd.
The 3rd and 7th, very good. That means the 3rd will be 4th, 5th, and 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Again, Shlishi will be, we'll do the 3rd of Tishri, 4th of Tishri, 5th of Tishri, the 5th of Tishri, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. Yes, it will be the 5th and the 9th of Tishri he'll sprinkle. That's the 5th of Tishri and the 9th of Tishri. Says go weiter, Rabbi Yehuda Steinberg we können surface up for Mazal of course Shiva. Can go to be Makipur Mazal of the Shlishi V'Shvi. We've got 3-way machrekas. The Meir says every day. Rabbi Yossi says only 3 and 7. Yehuda says it depends if you're doing a Porah Aduma or the Yom Kippur Avodah. Yom Kippur Mazal of the Shlishi V'Shvi. Now the more leaves of Yehuda Steinberg for the moment, the more discusses with Meir and Rabbi Yossi. Now they argue: do you do every day or 3rd and 7th? My love, welcome if you. Meaning that we're reluctant to be matted tumah. So if we have to do every effort we can to make sure he's not tumah, so we sprinkle him every day. So we're not worried that much if he's tumah, and therefore we only sprinkle the 3rd and the 7th. What's the kasha?
Why do 3rd? Also.
What would you need to do Azor B'chad? Don't do 3rd or 7th. If you hold to B'tzibur, it's as if it's no problem at all, so it can't be. Everybody agrees to the Chuya B'tzibur, and that's why you have to sprinkle. This is a very, very big machlokas with the Tefillah Mat and the Mitzvah. In fact, the Taz in Yehuda says there are many nafkiminas to it. We hardly keep going to it. Anybody can think of an nafkimina. Tefillah B'zman mitzvah means, is there a mitzvah to Tova on the correct day, immediately on the very first chance you can Tova? Is there a mitzvah to Tova? Let's say I touch the sheretz today. Do I have to Tova before Shkia? Or can I wait for whenever I want to Tova? Is there a mitzvah to Tova at the earliest possible time?
Not better to be Torah as much as you can.
But it's not a question of Gabi that. It's a question on the Pshat and Posuk, because the Posuk says, and then the Posuk brings a time. Does that mean Dafka, the earliest time possible? It's a Pshat and Posuk. The Afkuna is numerous. For example, if a husband's away, should the woman Tova even immediately, can she wait? Taz brings an Afkuna. Another Afkuna, the Mechava brings in the Chaim, is regarding Tova on Tishba on Yom Kippur. If you hold Tuvah Vilam Zan a mitzvah, you should be allowed to Tuvah on Tishra when you give because it's a mitzvah and stuff. It's Teichel Isor B'chitza, and there's other nafkimunas. So the Gemara says over here the Machlokes is when the Tuvah is on a mitzvah. For the record, Lema'isa, there are many poskim will hold that Tuvah is on a mitzvah. Most poskim hold like that. Nowadays, because every woman that she's a zava, so therefore what happens is she's never really Tuvah with Mana, because the reality is that she's a nida. We're being choished that she's a zava. So therefore, no longer can we Tuvah with Mana. That's what Shavuot says. Why doesn't a woman nowadays Tuvah on Tisha B'Av? Because we don't hold Tuvah on mitzvah. Oh, well, most of us shouldn't hold Tuvah on mitzvah. But the answer is, what's Bismana mitzvah? At the right time. When was the real right time? A week earlier. So now, anyway, you missed the right time. So there's no reason to Tuvah on Tisha B'Av to be over that when it's not mitzvah anyway. Okay. So most is like this. The Machlokes is whether we say Tuvah on a mitzvah. That means, according to Amir, we're going to the more explains in a minute that Hazor and Tvila are very interlinked. The Pasuk says that after you do Hazor, like Levi wants to point out, whenever you do Hazor, you also do Tvila. Some use it to be a mace. He sprinkles, it gets sprinkled on the 3rd and the 7th, then he tovels and then becomes tor. So if you hold Tvila with Zalim Mitzvah, you hold Hazor with Zalim Mitzvah, at least at this stage of the Gemara. So the Machlokes on Rabbi Yosi, whether you have to sprinkle every day, is whether you hold Bizman Mitzvah. According to Amir, it's Bizman Mitzvah. Since it's Bizman Mitzvah, therefore you have to do it every day because maybe he became Tomei 3 days before he separated. So the first day that he comes to the Beis Hamikdash, he needs to do Hazor because it is the correct day. And then again, every single day, it could be the first day for him to do Hazor. That's the Machlokes. Furthermore, some Rabbi Is that what really Rabbi Yehuda holds? Rabbi Yossi holds, well, Tanya, we've learned, we had this whole Gemara in Shabbos. A person has the name of Hashem written on his flesh. He mustn't wash. He mustn't anoint himself with oil. He shouldn't stand in a place of dirt. Mustn't wash himself. Why mustn't he wash himself? Oh, because he might come to rub out the name of Hashem. The Pasuk says, you should destroy the names of Avodah Zarah. You mustn't do so to Hashem your God. Rashi in Parshas Eikev asks the question, what would be the havamina that you should destroy the name of Hashem? Rashi actually gives 3 different answers. We'll only say 2 because another one's not to do with this sugya. 2 answers. Rashi says, don't do averos, and that will cause the Beis Hamikdash to be destroyed. So therefore, you're causing a groma of the base of the house of Hashem to be destroyed. Another pshat Rashi says is that you're not even allowed to pull away at a stone of the mizbeach or rub a letter of the name of Hashem, which is Issa. That's the Mekor of all the halacha of Shemus and Geniza, Lo Yisasu Kein Hashem Elokeichem. So you mustn't wash because you might come to rub off the name of Hashem. There's a big machlokes Rishonim. If you dip into water, is there a problem? Because when you dip into water, you're not rubbing it off. It just causes the gurama, and the name of Hashem should be deleted. The Yehuda has got a shaila that there was once a person that had written the name of Hashem on his wall. And what happened was that room, he decided to light a bonfire to heat up, to cook. He wanted to make it a kitchen. And you can't imagine how much smoke there is. If you ever go to like, and they was going to cover the name of Hashem. And he brings this Gemara and brings Machlokes Hashem on this stage. It's this Shonim on the side over here. Is the Ism Mechikas Hashem Begrom. It's the Ism Mechikas Hashem Begrom. The Mishnah quotes this Yehuda Yehuda right in the beginning of Orach Chaim. The gab is something is that he says in certain shuls they have the words Shavisi Hashem Negdi Samid on the Amud, and then the Chazanim they put many candles and they light the candles, and sometimes they're not careful and the candles burn the wood at the back, and if they're not careful they're causing a grom or the smoke deletes the name of Hashem. So it brings over here as a shaila of Gom Chitz Hashem. It should be noted that Rashi in Shabbos the Ma'aser tells us the reason you mustn't wash is not to do with Mechikas Hashem. It's to do with walking around undressed in front with the name of Hashem. That's the problem. And more than that, I'll just say very briefly, as Fat Machzel Yochilek Aleph says, very similar, that you mustn't change a nappy in front of your Svam shops. It brings it from this Gemara. More from the Yamad Bokman to Nefes. Not so easy always to keep that you got Svam in all the rooms. Right? The what happens is you mustn't change a nappy of a baby because it's a zilzal for it Shemaim to change from front. You should go into like some orders, not in front of Svam. Okay. So the Ma'aser says if a person's got the name of Hashem, he should wash it to know Shem or Ketanofas. This done the Tefillah mitzvah. What happens if he's got a mitzvah? He has to tevel Kirchel of Gemi. He wraps over to Gemi v'tevel and he tevels. Question: what about chatzitza? What about
It's
chatzitza?
not Rover's body, and it's not makbid on it.
What you'd be saying is correct, except for the fact there is makbid. The proof being is putting a gemi on
No,
it,
it's the Beis.
because that is makbid.
It's not makbid at all.
The answer is, I hear the Gemara in Shabbos asks the question. The Gemara says you do it loosely. You do it loosely. You put
Then
the
what the hell?
Oh.
Because of sneers.
very good. Then the Gemara brings a raya that it's not because of Rabbi got in this shape. Okay. Again, we can of gemi v'tevel. Rabbi Yisroel yod v'tevel kadarko. You can do it the normal way. Why is it very so you can do it the normal way? The Gemara in Shabbos explains. If you have to start looking for a gemi, if you have to start looking for a plaster, it might take you time. It might take you time. You might miss that night. And Rabbi Yisroel holds tefillah is one mitzvah. So again, therefore, don't waste your time looking for a plaster. It can take time looking for a plaster. So therefore, tefillah straight away is a right. Rabbi Yisroel, the tefillah is one mitzvah. Well, actually, shafshi if you don't rub on it. The tefillah is one mitzvah could be a figure. Yomi the tefillah is one mitzvah. The tefillah is one mitzvah. So the Gemara says like this again. We've got machlokes of Rabbi Yisroel whether you do azor every day. What? No, any kind of tefillah. Sheretz, carry. Again, let's go very briefly. Whether you have a zor every single day or just shlishi b'shvi. Says the Gemara, one mahalach was machlekes whether is choyo or huto. It says well, it can't possibly be the machlekes because Rabbi Yossi holds the choyo huto. Why would you need shlishi b'shvi? You shouldn't need any azor at all. So the Gemara says machlekes whether tefillah is on a mitzvah, and therefore according to Rabbi Yossi, tefillah is a lav mitzvah, is not a mitzvah. You want a cup, you get to tefillah is lav mitzvah, it's not a mitzvah. Since it's not a mitzvah, so therefore, your back is therefore you don't need to do it every day. You can just do it on the 3rd and the 7th. Says the Gemara, the problem you can't say that because we see that Rabbi Yossi holds tefillah b'zman is a mitzvah. So now we're back to square one. If Rabbi Yossi holds tefillah b'zman a mitzvah, you should do azor every day. Everyone agrees tefillah b'zman a mitzvah. Machlokes is whether we compare azor to tefillah or not. That means everybody agrees tefillah is a mitzvah. Machlokes is whether hazor bismano is a mitzvah or not. That means like this: we don't know when the Kohen Gadol might have become tummy, so we have to do hazor according to Amir every day because he holds tefillah is a mitzvah, and so is hazor bisman mitzvah. Rabbi Yossi says that we don't say tefillah. We say tefillah is a mitzvah, but not hazor bisman mitzvah. And Tisha says a little small knech, which actually comes up in the first a few times. Now it's like this: if Rabbi Yossi holds tefillah is a mitzvah, so surely you should have to do azor every day, because the halacha is that once you do azor, you do tefillah. And according to Rabbi Yossi, tefillah is one mitzvah, so you should do tefillah every day. So you should do azor every day in order to get the tefillah every day. Anybody got an answer? Nice logical answer. Again,
it's only a mitzvah to play when there's a hazor.
Very good. You have that. You didn't answer the question then. Very, very briefly. Well, I think Rabbi says, what should you do? What's the mayor say you should do? Hazor every single day. Rabbi Yossi says only 3 and 7. It's not to do it too much because the Rabbi Yossi needs it. You can't be to do it tefillah b'zman mitzvah because Rabbi Yossi holds tefillah b'zman mitzvah. Answers whatever degrees tefillah b'zman mitzvah. Machlokes is whether hazor b'zman mitzvah. Veda taste is shon that we know that after hazor you do tefillah. If Rabbi Yossi holds tefillah b'zman mitzvah, so you should have to do hazor every day. We don't know when the Kohen Gadol became tummy. We've got no idea. So we do every single day just to be yotza all the different chashoshos. But if you hold tefillah b'zman mitzvah, so therefore, we don't know whether, for example, it became tummy a day before he separated, 2 days, 3 days, a week. We don't know. So we should do every day azor, says the Shalom, in order to create the tefillah bismano, which is a mitzvah. Says it is Shalom, like Levi says, like Levi Yitzchak Kope says, that what? That no, that it's not true. It's not tefillah bismano mitzvah. Is when you've got normal tefillah. But here, the mitzvah of tefillah is dependent on the hazor. If you don't do the hazor, there's a mitzvah of tefillah. And the azor is mana, there's no mitzvah. If there's no azor is mana mitzvah, then you can't say that there's a tefillah is mana mitzvah, and therefore you could just do 3 and 7 and rely on that. Is it clear?
Why didn't azor then?
So Rabbi Yossi said you do azor 3 and 7 because you want to be chayshish, but you don't need to do it every day because we don't say tefillah is mana mitzvah.
No, because you don't say hazor is mana mitzvah.
Because don't say azor is mana mitzvah. You're correct.
Fine.
They're right. Because azor is mana. We don't say azor is mana mitzvah, but tefillah is mana. We do say.
No,
it's very good. Very good. Yes, it's good that you're listening. Sometimes. Says the Gemara. If he holds of this, there's like in between. By Yom Kippur he says don't. By Purim he says do. It was a special chumrah that they did. Anybody know why they did a special chumrah by Po'ah Adumah?
Against Beis.
You have to explain it better than that. Stuck him. But why did they do a special chumrah by Po'ah Adumah?
Show that.
No, you're missing out the stage. Because on the day that he bought the Po'ah Adumah, they made him Tommy. What did they make him Tommy with? Rashi says, Sheretz, Tesis says we just touch him.
That's Tutulian.
Oh, right. To make him a Tul Yom. So therefore, since we're Zalzal to make him Tommy, so therefore we're machim as much as possible before. Okay. Command Oslo.
Wasn't that because of the Tzdukim, no?
Because of the Tzdukim, that's right. Because of the Tzdukim, yes. Command Oslo, who does it go like on the Rabbanon the Beis? Ein Bein. There's no difference. Ein Bein Kohen Surface Apollo Kohen Gadol B'Yom HaKippurim. There's no difference in the Kohen Surface Kohen Gadol. There's a Apollo Kohen Gadol B'Yom HaKippurim. Elo. The only difference, top of Chesed with Beis, Shezeh Prishasa the Kedusha V'Echav HaKohenim Noigin Boy. The whole difference between the Kohen Gadol and the Scan Kohen, who one would did the Kohen Gadol, and one did the Pardon, is one was Perish the Kedusha and one was Perish the Tahar. There are two Malachim in the Rishonim what this means. One Malach is Malach I say first and after Rashi is Prishos the Kedusha. Where did the Kohen Gadol spend his week? Which is in our zone. The other one was on the Beis. The Beis is only Tahara, it's not Kedusha. The Beis is Machne Leviyah, and the Shechina is Machne Shechina. So that one goes to Rishos Kedusha, to Machne Shechina, and this one's the Tahara Beis. But the Maisa Rashi doesn't say that. Rashi says Kedusha means that we separate him to become Kodesh. The Tahara is we separate him to be Tov, meaning that the purpose of the Trish of the Kohen Gadol is that he should dedicate himself to become Kodesh to Hashem, to become Kodesh like the way we use it, to become holy, to be, and therefore he would do it in order to have fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The other one was nothing to do with become fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We just became him Torah. So Teres is asked, according to Rashi, he doesn't understand. According to Rashi, there's other differences. One goes into the Azor and one goes into the Beis. There's other differences. So Teres says the Gemara means that this is like included in that. Okay. It's not a choshev difference. This is a choshev difference. And let's just see, once the top of Teres, okay, we'll see in a second. Then the Teres, the Gemara says, command, who does this Beis go like? If it's there's another difference. What's the other difference called Chadinas Kana Kohanim? What's the other difference called Chadinas Kana Kohanim? Very good. Kohen Gadol in Kippur is only sprinkled 3 and 7. Mashing for Po'ah Adumah is sprinkled every day. So there's another difference. Let's just see the traces. Chadinas Kana Kohanim Economy Hard. The top is the first new traces. Table the Akati Economy. She's a purchase of Pedro. She's a purchase of Pedro. If you want to chosh, we must the Chashivuso. שיש מעלה וזה בזה, מה שזה פרש לישקה, זה פרש לישקה, זו להבדיל סד חשיבוס ובית ובית, not such a big difference. אינם נראה לפעש שמילי כחושב, זה פשוט הקדוש על ידי לישקה ספלג'ן שספודיו בקוידש. ואפילו אם תמצא מה שבסוך הלכוילים, כי נעבוד תריך יכולתי לעבור כדי שבוי הזו, כל שכדי שבוי, כן נעבוד של קדוש, יש לי מה אפילו כדי שבניו בקוידש, בסמך לעזור כל שפט קדוש הקדוש. וזה פשוט סלטה לישקה שפתעביר ונס בהר הבית, שאם הקדוש יהיה סביב ירושלים, אלא טוהי יויסה. It's not more Kodesh, it's only more טוהי. Okay. So that Tosis says that this one's Polish to Kedusha, this one's Polish to Tahar. So we'll finish with the sugya now of Machlekas of Hutu B'Tzibur T'Chuy B'Tzibur. And now we're going to go a tiny bit into the sprinkling every day of 3 and 7. Let's go very briefly again. A person who's a Tmei Mace, he has to sprinkle the 3rd and the 7th. If a person knows which day he became Tommy, so what he just does, he counts 3 days from the day he became Tommy, and then 4 days from then, and he sprinkles. The Kohen Gadol really, if you sprinkle the 3rd and the 7th, he's definitely okay, because he's not going to become Tommy while he's in the Beis Mikdash. But because we said there's Machlekes whether Tzvia has Rob is on a mitzvah, we sprinkle every single day. Why every day? Because we don't know which day he became Tommy. Maybe he became Tommy a month before, maybe a day before, maybe a week before. So we want to make sure to cover all our bases. So we cover all our bases, therefore we sprinkle him every single day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The most question is that not every day is necessary. It's a purely mathematical question, but you should come up to it yourself. Does anybody work out which day is no mathematical reason to sprinkle him?
Day 1, no?
No, day one. Why speak of day one? Let's say day one is 3rd of Tishri. Maybe he became Tomei the 1st of Tishri. Maybe by mistake he went to the by a dead person.
But he's still got a whole week to go.
No. Again, day 4 is the big problem. But day 1 is that he needs to. Again, if we say Azov is one mitzvah, so maybe 3 days before he happened to have a dead body. For example, he was walking around, he's preparing himself to go to the Beis Hamikdash, and while he was walking, he walked over a dead body without realizing it could be on the ground. No, day 4. No, day 4 makes no sense. Day 4, which day is it sprinkling? They became Tomei on day 1. It's impossible. And if you became Tomei a week before, if it's not, every other day has a cheshbon. Why? Which other day? Day 2, maybe became Tomei a day before he came to Beis Hamikdash. So then the day before, the day he came, and then the second day. So that's 3 days. So it's a week. But day 4, there's absolutely no logic, bichlal, to do azor. Is that clear? It's the question not clear. It's a shame to carry on. Every single day, there's an option. Either it's the first week or the second one. He always has to do 2. So day 6, for example, it is possible he became Tomei the day before he came into Beis Hamikdash. So then he has to do the second day and then the 6th day. Mashain came day 4 has no logic. Says the Gemara like this: maybe it's the 3rd day for when he became Tomei. Sheni Shemos Shlishi, Shlishi Shemos Shlishi, Chamishi the 5th day Shemos Shvi. Maybe it's the 7th day for when he became Tomei from before he came in. Shishi Shemos Shvi, Shvi Shemos Shvi. Elovi normally Azor Klal Levi Shlishi Kilisfuke. It can't possibly be the 3rd because it's been a Beis Hamikdash past 3 days. Levi Shvi Kilisfuke. Because it's not been 4 days since he had the last sprinkling. On the 4th day, he never got sprinkled the day that before he came in. So it's not 3 and it's not 7. The Gemara says, can you actually sprinkle him all 7 days? But it's not What's the Issa D'Rabbanan doing sprinkling on Shabbos? What's the Issa Hazor on sprinkling on Shabbos? Mesakin Mono. That is what Rashi says.
So if Shabbos is in on the 3rd day, then it's not considered the 2nd because it's not considered complete.
Nah, because
part of it.
I hear the 4th day.
No,
it's still a 2nd. It's still a 2. I thought you meant something else. It's a tickle. The preparing is more toy than now the 7th day. No. There's another reason why you can't do Azor besides the problem on the 2nd. No.
Chitza.
What?
It's not a sicha or chitza sicha?
No. The reason is it might carry the water. That's actually what the Gemara says. Rashi says like you. So the Gemara in Shabbos says the chashashes of carrying. If you remember at the time we said there are 5 things we don't do because we're chashish for carrying. Hazor, shofar, lulav, megillah. There was one more. Misvila we said. Misvila we do too. There's one more. There's a 5th as well. No. That's it's a different problem. There's another one. What's the other one? I can't remember. What did you say? Shofar we said. Shofar, lulav, Megillah, Hazor, and there's one more. I can't remember. No. Okay, so the says, what are you going to say? Shvi'ah, Shiva Levav Shabbos. So 7th is not dafka except for Shabbos. So it's not all 7. It's actually we're only sprinkle. How many days are going to sprinkle in the end? It's a very hard question. We're not Shabbos and not Revi. So how many days are going to sprinkle?
It could be 5. Another one.
The Rambam writes which day for Paul in Kippur you've got no choice. You're always going to have to. It's going to be 3rd of Tishri. But for Paul Adam, I'm always going to say it in the 2nd. But which one of you is chapit? Which day of the week is the best day of the week to take him out of his house for Paul Adam? Which we can choose which day we want.
4th day Shabbos.
Not Sunday.
Wednesday.
I'm right. It's Wednesday.
Very good.
Rambam writes.
Anyway,
you're sprinkling more days. The most
Let's see. The word says it, but the word doesn't say which day. Hilgoch. Kohen God of Bimakipurim delivered on Talim Milsus not it's got to do with the month. Right, what's the problem? Worked out. Wednesday is the best day, as Ben says, and the Rambam also. Ben and the Rambam. No, he's looking at the Rambam himself.
Sorry,
Kohen God of Bimakipurim delivered on Talim Milsus not to us. Up to when the month was established. The task with the we have no choice. We have to take him out of the house on the 3rd day. That's when we're going to take him. And there'll be certain years. How many times will we sprinkle him? 5. We'll miss out the 4th and we'll miss out Shabbos. We don't tell him no sufficient labor. Sorry, Paul says it. So why don't we sit in the Rambam? See, that's probably look too much.
Is a robber.
It says Beviv Shabbos. I made a mistake. I saw it, and then after forgot it. The Rambam writes Beviv Shabbos. Gehicht is some Beviv Shabbos, and all this should come out the 4th days of Shabbos. So the Rambam, the Gemara, and Ben all say that you should separate him on a Wednesday.
Not bad company.
Not bad company. That when you separate him on the, that's it. The Rambam always writes the halacha is much easier to read it through. That you should separate it. That way we don't lose out. Okay. The Lishkas Behedrim. Now finally we have a bit of a Gadita, quite a bit of a Gadita, very tragic Gadita, but we'll see how much we can get in. Lishkas Behedrim. So what did you say?
Someone saying they write a robber. That was the thing we didn't do on the Shabbos.
I know, but we always make sure that it's not Chal on Shabbos. We always make sure that Shana Rabbah is not on Shabbos in order to avoid.
They do all 7 days, a robber, no?
Because we always make sure that the Rabbah is not on Shabbos. No, there's another one. It's a more random one. Azor. There's one more that we don't do now. What? No. You will never do a Shabbos. No, we try Shashubai Kabtikari. No. Lishkas Behedrim. The Mishnah says it goes Lishkas Behedrim. Tanya Yehuda. The Lishkas Behedrim no is so. Behedrim. The literal translation of Behedrim. Does anybody know? Governors. Lishkas Beluvti is another word. It means important people who are princes. And the Betchila you can use Lishkas Beluvti. Because they would give a lot of money for the Kohanim. Which Beis were we talking about? Second Beis Hamikdash. Every year they'd have to change Kohen Gadol because he would die. Like these ministers that we change them like these governors. These guys would change them every 12 months. If that's why we call it Behedrim. Somebody I saw the Sefer that was very in the score. Says he thinks to us why we would be on the Madrega of the Rishonim of the second Beis Hamikdash. They would spend huge sums of money to become Kohanim Gedolim with the full knowledge that they're going to die. Less than 12 months, we're seeing even less, very quickly.
Wishing upon ourselves
okay, the fact is, they obviously felt a huge chesed. No, what's the Avodah Zarah? They made that thing of the Ketores in the wrong place.
We'll see. So strong about it. The Yitzhak's got very strong power.
Okay, you're right. It's I'm saying it tongue in cheek. It's not. Okay, the Maisa. I saw the Ritva says a very ancient thing. I didn't know this. The Ritva says that kings change the officials every 12 months. The reason is because if the officials stay for a long time, people become friendly with them and they bribe them. And the king wants his rules to be carried out. So they will change your officials every 12 months. You don't change your... No, it's so I can do it more often. But 9 seconds. Okay, let's go very briefly.
Put him as well, what on earth?
No, he doesn't.
It's ridiculous.
He stays the whole time. Again,
He's the king.
He's the king. That's right. He's the king. He's changing other people. That's right. People need him. Again, let's get it clear. The Mishnah said this was for Hedrin, this was for Balvotin. Balvotin was a nice name. Was a name for important people. Hedrin was for unimportant people, for officials. In Moses originally, they were given a minister like princes. But when they became changing every 12 months, then they became the Kudishkas Hedrin, where they were changed all the time. Okay. Now, since we use the word Behedrin, we're going to bring another Mishnah which talks about Behedrin, another topic with nothing to do with this, except for the fact he uses the word Behedrin. So now, also, very briefly, when a person gets grain, he has to take first the Kohen, then Tumah Gedolah, then from the Tumah Gedolah, which he gives to the Kohen, then he gives Maisa to the Levi, who gives Tumas Maisa to the Kohen, then he gives Maisa Sheni most years, and Maisa only the 3rd and the 6th year. There's a halacha of Demai. Demai is from Namaoretz, and Namaoretz, they would not take Tumas and Maisas properly, except for one thing they always took. What's the one thing they always took? Tumah Gedolah. Why did they always take Tumah Gedolah?
It's very strict, and it's not as much.
Very good. Oh, wow. It's Machlikas showed it. Once because it was very strict, once it was very short, it was very much. What else is very not very much? Allah has been not you only take one grain for however much you've got. So they would do it because they thought it was something very easy. The other Rishonim say is because it was very strict because it's Chil Misa. But there are Maratzim, because the truth of the matter is for Tumas Maisa and for Maisa is also Chil Misa. But they only knew about Tumas being Chai Misa. For whatever reason, either because it was very little, or because it was very strict according to their mistaken understanding. Wait a second. No, we'll see in a second. Because of their mistaken understanding that it was more strict than the rest. But the Maisa, it's not true, but that's what they thought. They always took Tumah Gedolah. Now Chazal told everybody else to Mai, except for who doesn't need to take the Mai. Who doesn't? Anim, poor people, or if you're giving to poor people, or Hefker doesn't take anything. It's part of all of them. Now the Mishnah says a special color for bakers. Then also bakers who have a very lot of it's very difficult. All they have to take is Tumas Maisa and the Challah. It's a very, very difficult question. This is Shonim asks. If anybody thinks of it, I do not think it myself. So just Shonim side. It's a very, very strong question. Now, what's the question? Challah has nothing to do with who you're buying it from. Challah, you only have challah once you make a dough. So if I buy produce from the biggest tzaddik in the world, the biggest vosh in the world, the biggest amods in the world, it will make not the slightest difference as to whether I'm chayav challah. Challah is only chayav when you make the dough. It makes no difference. Let's say I buy from a Talmud Chacham, but he can't take challah for me. I bought grain, and now I'm making it into a dough. What did you want to say? It's very shred. Yeah, but it's bashvat that they're not chayav to take it to challah. Why didn't I have to take Tumah Gedolah? Why the Tanya? Daf Tesamudal Fisha Shalach Chol Gvul Yisroel. Who Shalach, by the way? Look at top Rashi. Yerichtin Kohen Gadol. Yerichtin Kohen Gadol sent a message. There's a very, very interesting Chayim. He's got a whole avichus, huge, with tremendous bekias. Who was this Yerichtin Kohen Gadol? It makes a small nafkemina when you're davening on Chanukah and it's made Matisol by Yerichtin Kohen Gadol. Who was the Kohen Gadol? Was Matisol the Kohen Gadol, or was Yerichtin Kohen Gadol? If you look at some of these Siddurim, the question is where to put the comma. We made Matisol when Yerichtin Kohen Gadol was Kohen Gadol. We made Matisol when Yerichtin Kohen Gadol. And Chag has got a tremendous avichos. He proves there were three different kinds of Gedolim called Yerichtin. One was the father Matisol, one was his son, and one was his grandson. And that one of them was a very, very big tzaddik. The question is which one? We do not know which one he says. It's like, I don't know.
For 80 years.
Very good, very good. That's what it discusses. And the 8 years, what did we come after 8 years? Stucky. Like Mo's going to mention in a minute. Very good. Oh, wow. So anyway, so he's got a whole lot of avichos. Which one was that? The law, the second God saw she'en mafish in a Tumah Gedolah b'lvad. They only took Tumah Gedolah alone. Since they only took Tumah Gedolah b'lvad, so therefore he made them. What's the word for it? They only took Tumah Gedolah. So, Ma'aser Rishon and Ma'aser Sheni Nami Loi. Why do we have to give Ma'aser Sheni? Like what you want to say, Levi. What you do is you separate it, and then you say to the Levi, "Look, you want it. Prove it that Boaz didn't take Tumah Ma'aser." And the same thing, Ma'aser Oni. Prove it. So therefore, you take the hafosha, and then you don't give it, which is what we do nowadays. By the way, if you buy fruit from Eretz, you do a small separation, but you're allowed to eat it because there's no issa to eat it. It's a chiyuv. Okay. Elamaisa sheni fei more nifreshu. They should separate with this group the chnu b'Yushalayim and eat it in Yerushalayim. Or ma'ula itoich shepahedin alalu chayv today some kolid beis chodesh. They would beat them every 12 months. V'oimim lahem mechoy v'zol sell it at a cheap price. That means the government officials would cause them huge hassle. But they did not cause them to go to Yerushalayim. My pahedin pulsi of government officials. Again. Teshon's got very big avichus. He asked a very strong question, which is again, Teshon discussed it as well. The halacha is a ma'aser sheni, but if you put it on the footer, it works. Very the Teshon that here we talk about mamash isur deraisa. We should tell people to take the ma'aser sheni, be mafish it, be put it on the shava footer, and then take the shava footer, destroy it, take it to Yerushalayim. Why don't we do it? Because of these government officials. His main answer is Chazal never like to institute something which is with the evidence, because then everybody will start being prayed on Shavat Puta, and no one will bring anything to Yerushalayim. So they prefer that rather you don't do Ma'aser Sheni at all, rather than you look at I don't know which print you've got. They show the film the Ma'aser he asks the kasha that they do it. Okay, we're up to Omaraba Gadeta, which Hashem will start tomorrow at 8 o'clock. We'll stop it here because I've still had everything. At least it's easy tomorrow. A lot of Muslim tomorrow, so be prepared to what's the word for it?
Shkach.
Shkach.